Hello, BookTube. I have yet another MegaStuff video for you. It's entirely likely that these MegaStuff videos may be daily. My life is full of MegaStuff. A whole bunch of little bits and pieces that don't really make a whole video on their own, so I'm lumping them all together. And of course, we will start off with babies. I put out the call for pictures of dogs, or pictures of Shakespeare, or pictures of dogs with Shakespeare, and that has metamorphosed into just a parade of pictures of the animals that you give a home to, regardless of what species they are. That's been just fantastic. I have one picture for you here today. This is little Luna. Oh, look at those little white toes. Oh. I would have more. I would have pictures of the absolutely adorable Benji, the dog of Steve Partridge. Some of you may have noticed the resumption, one might even say recrudescence, of Steve Partridge videos over on his channel. I'll leave a link down below. He rescued a dog, an adorably needy dog. One of those dogs that wants to love you, that wants to press their nose against you and wants to know why you're talking to your Zoom meeting or whatever. Benji is adorable, and Steve Partridge sent me pictures of Benji. And you know how when you send somebody a picture, it's the name of the picture, then .jpg, a JPEG? Well, his were the name of the picture and then .heinebluten or something like that. And when my computer saw those pictures, it not only said, I do not recognize this format, it also said, and it kind of looks like the format wants to invade Poland. And it's complete proof in my mind of a theory that I've had ever since I visited the place, which is that people who live in Berlin are nuts. They go a little crazy. And it isn't always obvious on the surface. So, for instance, you could be visiting with your dogs in Berlin, and you could meet a nice young book publisher, an editor at a publishing house, and his wife, who is a school teacher, and they could seem perfectly friendly, and they love your dogs, and they say, how about you come over to our place for supper? And you say, absolutely, I'd be glad to. And you go over to their place for supper, and you notice that the first entree is jelly pastries. And you say, oh, that's kind of odd to start the meal with jelly pastries. And they say, just matter-of-factly, oh, no. First, we smear the jelly pastries all over our bodies, then we eat. And you just want to say to them, you're lifelong Berliners, aren't you? I have no idea why he sent me pictures of Benji in such a weird and recherche format that isn't used anywhere outside of Berlin. But maybe I can convince him to send me pictures in, JPEG format, the format that everyone uses all the way from here to the birthplace of Zephyrin Cockrum on Alpha Centauri. In the meantime, Luna is going to have to do, and Luna is every bit as cute as Benji and probably not quite as needy. So that's MegaStuff item number 1. MegaStuff item number 2 involves the ongoing saga of my closet. There is a closet in this room. I wonder if I could show it to you. Can I show it to you? It's a mess, but it'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. It's that. See? It's tall, and it's deep. I'm already starting to fill it with things, but what I need to do is... I have no idea how that came out. I'll have to look at this before I post it. What I need to do is fill that space with stuff that I'm not going to use, and then close the door. See, there's a door. And I want to close that door and just make a wall right there. And when you have a wall, of course, you must have a bookcase. You must put a bookcase right there. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've been sternly instructed not to do any of that heavy lifting myself. So instead, what I've done today is earmark everything that's going in there. Now, just to prove that I am a man, just to prove that I am not made of porcelain, I am moving a couple of things out of the way. There's a stack of books right next to the bed, in between the bed and the door of the closet. That stuff's going to have to move anyway. Because when my muscular teenagers get here tomorrow and heft up this bed and heft up the box spring and move the bookcases out of the way, the door is going to have to close all the way. So that stuff's going to have to move anyway, and that at least gives me the satisfaction of knowing that I've contributed just a bit. My main question now, since you signed in for all of this tedium, is the space between the bed and the wall. I can move the bed. The boys can move the bed. They can bring it as far into the room as it needs to be to accommodate But the problem is that when the door is closed, there's still the doorknob. It's not an absolutely flat wall. And I only have a couple of bookcases that don't have backs to them. Which, if I'm going to put a bookcase there, it's going to need to be that kind. It's going to need to be a bookcase that doesn't have a back to it, so that the doorknob can stick out and not impede things. And there's one bookcase, the bookcase that used to be there for that, and it has since the boys took all the books off it and moved it out into the other room half a year ago, and filled it back up with books. And they're not going to like hearing that they may have to reverse that whole process. They're not going to like that at all. I don't particularly care what they like and don't like, but nevertheless, they're not going to like it. They're going to complain. I'm going to get a lot of surly dudes. But I think that might have to be necessary, because if it's not, if I don't do that, if I put it just a normal bookcase there in that space, then it's going to have to be the distance from the door that is the length of the doorknob, which means there's going to be a gap down there, and I don't want that. I want the bookcase to be flush against the wall as possible. So I think there's only one bookcase here that will do that, so that's a whole rigmarole on its own. It's just to put everything back where it was. It's just another rigmarole on its own. But all of that should be done by the next time I film videos. I mean, I'm describing a lot of tedious work, but the boys will have it done in 20 minutes. They literally live to lift heavy objects repeatedly, so they won't have any trouble doing it. And I also, another little bit of MegaStuff is something that some of you brought up to me. I leave my email in every video, and I originally planned on doing that for high and noble book discussion, but it's actually devolved into all sorts of tiny little details. And one of you emailed me yesterday. I pointed out that I got a checky poo in the mail from an employer, and I was mentioning that it wasn't what I expected, and what I got instead were these gorgeous tasseled DC Comics bookmarks from one of you. But I mentioned that, and one of you emailed and pointed out the absolute obvious, something that I had overlooked, which is that it is very odd for an employer to send a printed check. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody, except this place. This place does that. And B, a printed check means I have to do something with it. It's not just enough. There's not just enough that they didn't just donate money to my account. I need to do something with a printed check. First, I need to endorse it. I need to write my name on it, and then I need to walk it somewhere, either to an ATM where I can deposit it. But I don't know about you, but I really get the willies about depositing money into a machine. I know that it's virtually foolproof. I know that the error rate is less than with a human. I know that. I know that on one level. I intellectually, I know that. And I know that the machine where I will deposit it can give me not only a receipt, but a photograph of the check. I will have all that I need to prove that I actually did it. But that requires that I check my account and find out, and fine-tune whether or not this amount was in it and at the right time. And what I would much rather do is, now verboten in the 21st century, in the benighted year 2020, what I would much rather do is endorse it, walk it to an actual living teller, and have them just cash it for me. It's not that much money. It doesn't need to go into any kind of account. I can just walk around with it. And I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know when I will do that. Of course, you can't wait forever, or the thing just goes invalid, and then I'm inconveniencing a very nice employer to cut a new check. So the one of you who emailed and said, "Well, isn't that a headache on its own?" You were absolutely right. I had been neglecting that. It is indeed a headache on its own. It's a good kind of headache. It's money, but I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do about that, and maybe I'll figure that out tomorrow. Maybe I will. I mean, I've learned through long experience being a freelancer that it's better with things like this to just get it over with. Just strike while the iron is hot. Find out where the nearest living teller is. Go to them, get it all done. Just get it all done. And if possible, fold in some errands that you like. That's what I always try to do. That was a great piece of advice I was given years and years ago. If you have an errand that you don't like, try to fold in stuff that you do like, even if it's an extravagance. Even if it's an indulgence, something you don't usually do, try to fold it in. There's no problem at all. There's nothing wrong with adding the carrot to the stick when it's something tedious like this. So we were right about that. Hopefully, by this time tomorrow, all of this will be taken care of. The check, the picture Heine Bluten suffix, the closet, the bookcases. Hopefully by this time tomorrow, all of it will be taken care of. And if the bookcase is taken care of correctly, well, you know what that means, right? You're all book addicts, so you know what that means. It means I'll suddenly have a vast expanse of empty shelves here in the book room. Not just shelves everywhere else in Hyde Cottage where books just go. This book room is special. It's my favorite books, the ones I love, the ones I can't live without. They're the ones that go in here. So it's a search through the outer rooms. One dream of mine has always been to, there's that distinction, right, between the books I love the books that are everywhere else here in Hyde Cottage, but there's a special kind of love for the ones that are here in this room. They have the longest history with me, and the ones I revisit the most, the ones that are precious in one way or another. That distinction, that dividing line, actually applies to any book collection anywhere. It also applies to all the books everywhere else in Hyde Cottage. Even out there, in those other rooms, that dividing line still applies. There are still books that mean more to me than others. And not only that, that dividing line also runs through sections, book sections. And I have often dreamed of having those biographies, the ones that fall on one side of that dividing line. Biographies are my favorite genre. I have those of you who may be new to the channel, maybe haven't gone back and looked at any of my library tours, I have a large biography section. And I have often thought, well, what if you did that? What if you split your library, your biography section, so that some of them came in here? And I've resisted it because, it's one section and it's getting bigger all the time. So, and really it's all of them, because I spend a lot of, aside from the books in this room, I spend the most time prowling around that biography shelf. So, I don't know. One way or another, it's a very nice problem to have. I'm suddenly going to have a lot of shelf space here in this room, and that is great. And it's not going to be expensive of anything else, because every time I walk outside my front door, I encounter a new bookcase. Something is just sitting there on the sidewalk. I just found one of those, was it yesterday? I might have blurred it all out. It was incredibly heavy. It might have been yesterday. And I'm in the process now, fairly protracted process, but you want to take the time to do it. I'm in the fairly protracted process of cleaning it up. I'm scrubbing all the dirt off it, and then I will wash it really clean, piping hot water and a paper towel, and then I will dry that until it's bone dry, and then I will apply wood polish and do it all over again. You want to do that once when the bookshelf is empty and just have it done like that. And I'm in the process of doing that. That I can do, I trust, without a doctor's note. But I know what my boys are going to say when they see it, and especially when they move it. They're going to say, dude, did you move this on your own? Rad. Anyway, for this Sunday MegaStuff video, we also have mail. I didn't expect it, but once again, I had a ninja mail delivery late last night. And my surly houseboy found it this morning, put it where I could find it. So we have mail, 2 packages, a package and a box, and it looks like they both come from publishers. So if with any luck, fingers crossed, this will be a present-free day. This will be a day when you don't give me anything. So yesterday was a little extravagant. So let's see what this first one is. Oh, okay, we saw the advance copy of this. And I believe it got a very favorable response. I believe the description, I don't have a pub sheet in this thing. I believe the description got a favorable response. I think I liked it too. We'll refresh our memory together. This is a new novel. This is by The Family Clause by Jonas Hassan Kamiri. Of course, I think the original that we got didn't have any cover art, and this isn't much of an improvement over no cover art, but this is what our author looks like. That is Jonas. And he is trying to smile. He's the author of 5 novels, 6 plays, and a collection of essays, plays, and short stories. Among his many honors are the August Prize, the highest award for Swedish literature, the Per Olav Enquist Literary Prize, an award for Best Debut Novel, the Obie Award. His novels have been translated into more than 30 languages, and his plays have been performed by more than 100 companies around the world, and he lives in Stockholm. Incredible. Very impressive for someone so young. So let's see what this is, see if it rings any bells. A grandfather who lives abroad returns home to Sweden to visit his adult children. His son is a failure. His daughter is having a baby with the wrong man. Only the grandfather himself is perfect, in his own eyes, at least. Over the course of 10 intense days, relationships unfold and painful memories resurface. The grandfather confronts his past. The daughter faces an impossible choice. The son tries to write himself free. Something has to give. According to a long-standing family agreement, the grandfather has maintained his Swedish residency by coming to stay with his son in Stockholm every 6 months. Can this clause be renegotiated, or will it chain the family to the past forever? That does sound intriguing, right? The publisher, who is this? Farrar, Straus and Giroux, has done their level best to make it look just about as boring a book as it could possibly be, but the description sounds great. And I don't have a pub sheet on this, but I believe it's a September release, so I will double check that. I have a whole system set up, now that I don't have pub sheets anymore for a lot of these things. I have a whole system set up, little slips of paper. I put the date on it and put it in the book, and it's all set up so that I don't have to go hunting for anything. So I'll put this, I'll date this thing, and if it's early September, I'll get right on it. And then we have this box, and then this MegaStuff video will be done. A box is always good because it could be something heavy. It could be a nice big book. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay, this as a pub sheet. This is due on September 1st. It is a nice big book. Oh, oh my. All right. This goes right on the list. This is Philip Mansell. This is King of the World. A Life of Louis XIV. Can you see how pretty this thing is? King of the World. That is gold embossed. All the lettering is gold embossed. Can I get it to shine in the sun? Look at that, huh? King of the World. Nice, big, hefty thing on Louis XIV. What have we got here? The most comprehensive and up-to-date biography in English of this hypnotic, flawed figure who continues to captivate our attention. And this might be the spark that I need, because some of you have pointed out over the years that I don't seem to be very interested in French monarchy. And that is true. And that is unsupportable, because the personalities, the issues, the details of the color of the French monarchy, the history of the French monarchy, is every bit as interesting, more so than the English monarchy that has been the subject of so much devotion on my part. So maybe this will start to correct that. Louis XIV was a man in pursuit of glory. Not content to be ruler of the world power, he wanted the power to rule the world. And for a time he came tantalizingly close. King of the World takes Louis outside of Versailles and shows the true extent of his global ambitions, with stops in London, Madrid, Constantinople, Bangkok, and beyond. We witness the importance of his alliance with the Spanish crown and his success in securing Spain for his descendants, his enmity with England, and his relations with the rest of Europe, as well as Asia, Africa, and the Americas. We also see the king's effect on the two great global diasporas of Huguenots and Jacobites, and their influence on him as he failed in his brutal attempts to stop Protestants from leaving France. Along the way, we are enveloped in the splendor of Louis's court and the fascinating cast of characters who prostrated and plotted within it. I'm sold. And the author is one of Britain's leading historians of France and the Middle East. He's the author of many books, including most recently Aleppo, The Rise and Fall of Syria's Great Merchant City, The Eagle in Splendor, Inside the Court of Napoleon, which I believe I read, and Levant, Splendor and Catastrophe on the Mediterranean. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. That's incredible. Okay, well, I often point out that these mail hauls and book hauls are very often also TBRs. This is a perfect case of that. Perfect. I'm afraid the Family Clause, a poor novel about upper middle class Connecticut divorce, only by way of Sweden, kind of gets bumped just a little. It kind of gets bumped just a little. It's not that long, so this won't take more than an hour or so to read. But I'm going to want to spend a lot of time with the King of the World, especially since I don't think I still have. What was the other great Louis XIV biography? From years and years and years ago. I read it and loved it. Was it Louis XIV and 4 Million Frenchmen? One of you will know, or I can look it up and leave it in the information down below. There was a very influential, a popular Louis XIV biography from 40 or 50 years ago. It had a hardcover release that got reviewed everywhere. It had a trade paperback release. It had a mass market paperback release, which you don't get anymore. This book will never get a mass market paperback release in America. I want to say Louis XIV and 14 million Frenchmen or something like that. Well, I'll find out. I'll find out what it is. But those are the books for today, and it's a slim work of fiction and a big work of biography. So you've got opposite spectrums for Steve's interest, and they will go on the list. I've been loving this Penguin special. I got this in the mail yesterday as a gift, and I have been loving it. And I noticed, when I was reading it, I was reminded that this is not the first time that one of you sent me a present about this particular subject. I found this, Penguin and the Lane Brothers, which one of you sent me a year ago. So now I have 2 books on the subject. One is much bigger than the other. But naturally, I hauled out the other one to sort of spot check. But it hasn't really worked because Penguin Special has been just involving me so much that I haven't bothered to spot check. So there you go. That is your Sunday MegaStuff video. We have a slim novel by an extremely experienced novelist, and a big fat biography of King Louis XIV that tries to put him, as so many books do, in a world setting instead of a French setting. That's the current fashionable thing, is to put the subjects of any kind of biography in a world setting. We saw it with the latest biography of Hitler, and we'll see it with many, many other people, this kind of broadening of narrow perspectives. But we have that, and we have a closet update, and we have a Checky Poo update. The only other bit of MegaStuff that I can, and we also had the babies. We had Luna. Oh my. We almost had Benji. Maybe someday we'll have Benji. But the only other thing, the thing that I would end with is, well, actually there are 2 things. I mentioned the other day that I have a podcast with the Cedarburg Public Library. And I also wanted to mention it. I've mentioned it before. I mentioned it when that whole thing first started. This is not my only flirtation with libraries. I also write a column for the Wethersfield Proctor Library up in Vermont, and it's on their website. So if you, I'll leave a link down below if you're interested in reading those columns. There's quite a few of them now. But the last thing I want to mention is tangentially connected with writing, because I've been mentioning NaNoWriMo, which is coming up. It's still a distance away, but it will get here faster than you think. And before NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, there is October, which has been commandeered by the writing contingent of YouTube, AuthorTube, as Preptober, where you do all that you can do, all that you're allowed to do by the rules of NaNoWriMo. You're not allowed to write anything of your work for NaNoWriMo in October, but you are allowed to do everything else, including planning to a fare thee well. And some people have even extended that planning to September. I won't do that quite that, but the last MegaStuff item I wanted to mention here is that you might want to do some preparatory preparation in September. You might want to start to hover around the idea, and then in October we will prepare for NaNoWriMo. But September's right around the corner. It's never too early to start thinking about NaNoWriMo, because I'd like a lot of people to participate this time around, including people who don't picture themselves as writers or have never really seriously thought about it. I want them to participate this year. I want them to feel that incredible feeling. If you get to the point where you feel what I always talk about one of the greatest sensations in the world is when you are writing, when you're creating your own world, and it's coming together. That is one of the greatest feelings in the world. One of the single greatest feelings in the world is when you actually bring that whole woolly process down to a 4-point landing at the end. But even the process of doing it is great. And also intoxicating. It's addictive. What I want, my goal, since I always say everybody should write. You should all do that. No one should be just a placid consumer. You should be generating as well. You should be contributing, because you've never been in a better position to do that. It's easy to do. I always say that, and saying that will only go so far. The thing that is most likely to get someone to do that is if they feel that feeling, that rush. Once they feel that, they'll know exactly the only place they can go to get it back. So that's what I'd like, is for a number of people to feel that way. But anyway, I'm going to wrap things up for now. Now I'm thinking about Louis XIV. I'm also trying to remember, in addition to that, I don't remember that book, and that's going to drive me nuts. I will find out what it was. But in addition to that, didn't Nancy Mitford write? She wrote a whole bunch of biographies. And I think she wrote one about Louis XIV. I think she did. And they were poo-pooed by the publishing world, by the reading world, by especially the critical world. They were poo-pooed. Oh, look at this. She's trying her hand at biography. Isn't this cute? But I've always thought those biographies were rather good. And I'm pretty sure she did one on a French king. And if it was a French king, it was probably Louis XIV. So I'll have to see. I have very little in the way of French biography in my biography section. Very little. I have Jacques Lagof's biography of St. Louis. And precious little else, unless you count Joan of Arc. So I'll have to find out. But I'm going to wrap this up for now. That's enough. That's enough mega stuff for now. And I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.